We are going. We're going back to the moon. For the first time, humans are going back to the moon since I was just a toddler. Really exciting stuff. That begins tomorrow, August 29th, 2022. The launch window starts at 8:33 a.m. So I want to give a brief preview here, first of Artemis 1, but also of the upcoming Artemis program. So here we go. Let's start with how we're getting there. And that would be the Space Launch System, SLS. There it is on the launch pad right at this moment, ready to go. Man, a lot of excited, nervous people, I'm sure, up at the Cape. There it is. And the Space Launch System has an incredible amount of thrust. I want to say is it maybe 8.8 million pounds of thrust. It weighs, I believe, 5.8 million pounds. And so that's basic rocketry. You want your upward thrust to be greater than your downward weight. Therefore, you go up. And so that's actually there's more room margin for error this time than there was with the Saturn V. I think the Saturn V was more like 7.8 million pounds of thrust. It actually weighed a little more. So this thing, it's a beast. In other words, it's a real mega rocket, which is amazing. And this is the first time they've tested out. So Artemis 1 tomorrow, it's unmanned. It's really about testing out all this equipment together for the first time and testing it out in space. And it's exciting stuff. It's a little bit old school in some ways. They're going to take those solid rocket boosters on the side and the main fuel tank, the orange part. All of those things get jettisoned. Instead of, you've seen a lot of them, Blue Origin and SpaceX, right? Everything's reusable now, and the boosters fly back down. So they're not doing that with this. But again, the thrust, the capability is really amazing. I guess they're going to try to collect those boosters. I don't actually know that. I've seen them before. I live in Florida, so I've seen them on the highway before, driving north on I-95 with a giant space shuttle rocket booster back in the day. So I don't know if they're going to try to fish those out of the ocean or what, but I've seen it done before. Anyway, Artemis 1, as I mentioned, there's nobody on board this time. They're testing out all the equipment, and it is going into orbit around the moon. It's actually going to be in space for a long time, a few weeks, like a month or so. And it's pretty amazing. They're going into a very stretched out, eccentric elliptical orbit around the moon where they get actually very close. I think maybe 60 miles, let's say on there somewhere, about 60 miles up. But then they go really far out from the moon, farther even than Apollo ever went. So that's pretty cool stuff. So this is Artemis 1. This is testing everything out. They drop off some little micro satellites along the way. Really cool stuff. Testing all out. They're actually going to come back faster towards the Earth than they've ever come back before. Test out that heat shield in the capsule. Make sure everything works properly. So they're coming in hot. And that's one of the big tests with this. Make sure I think it's 11 parachutes or something. Craziness. Anyway, what they're launching is right there. There are really two parts to this. The capsule that I mentioned with the heat shield, that's the Orion Capsule. There's a nice model of that at Kennedy Space Center. You can get an idea for the size of it, much larger than the old Apollo ones, where they would take up 3 astronauts to the moon. Now you could fit 6, I believe, inside the Orion capsule. And then just below it, doesn't get as much attention, but it's hugely important, the European Service Module, and that provides propulsion. It provides life support and many other things. So that's a huge part of this. And they need all that working properly, of course. So where are we going eventually with Artemis? Well, everybody's attention is on the south pole of the moon. The south pole of the moon, that's where the action is. There are a couple of reasons for this. There are places there where you get sort of eternal light from the sun. You could have solar power all the time. And then there's also ice there. There's ice down in the craters. We want to find out exactly how much ice and where exactly it is, but they have it all mapped out. And you can use ice for water, obviously, for drinking and bathing and cleaning. And you can also break that up into hydrogen and oxygen for rocket fuel. So, yeah, we're definitely interested in the South Pole, as are the Chinese. The second, let me move myself on the screen here, the second Artemis mission, and that is the Artemis team there, the astronauts. Wow, can you imagine how excited they are? Artemis 2 is going to do, with people on board. And that's going to do looks like a figure 8 there, orbit around the moon. And this is very reminiscent of the Apollo 8 mission back in December, I think, of '68. which was such an awesome mission. That's the one with the famous Earthrise photo. Um, and so, man, again, so testing that out with humans in Artemis 2. One of the things that they're going to do kind of long term here, something that's never been done before. We've had a space station now for over 20 years orbiting the Earth continuously, the ISS and other space stations. But now they're going to build a space station around the moon that orbits the moon called Gateway. They actually, at Kennedy Space Center, they have a new building dedicated to this. And so that's really exciting that they're going to start building that. That's one of the longer term goals of Artemis. And I think the one that will get the most attention is Artemis 3. We'll put the first woman on the moon, one of those ladies right there, I believe. And, they have a much more diverse astronaut crew, obviously, than back in the day. Man, that is going to be exciting stuff. Artemis 3 landing people on the moon for the first time since 1972, when I was 1.5 years old, I believe, was the last time people stepped foot on the moon. So it's super exciting stuff. And in the really long term, what are we doing with all of this space launch system? Well, we're going to the moon to learn how to sort of live off the land, if you will, to get practice for how you live long term. Apollo was there. Neil and Buzz were just there for like an hour and a half or something on the surface. It was a very short time walking around. And even at most, they were there maybe a few days, the later Apollo missions. But now we're talking about living and working on the moon and on the Gateway Station and learning how to do things. It's a pretty big step up then to go on a 7-month journey to Mars and to make it there. So that might be in the 2040s or so. But what we're doing now, of course, is paving the way for that. And folks, that all starts with tomorrow's launch of Artemis 1. Window opens at 8:33 a.m. We are going.